Hey, what is up, everyone? Welcome to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear and are cautious when there's greed. In today's video, we are going to be taking a look at the Bitcoin rainbow chart, price action, alt season index, everything to do with the Bitcoin rainbow chart, where we are at today, and if there are any indicators or previous patterns that might tell us or give us an idea of where we are going, as well as where the price might be at. I hope you all had a wonderful Memorial weekend. I had a great time, did some hiking, kayaking, got outside a bunch, so ready to get back to it and hopefully make some good profits off crypto in the next upcoming year. So starting off with crypto fear and greed. This is crypto fear and greed as we are standing right now, and overall we are at 72 and just touching the high greed area. We were in extreme greed just a week ago. And on this index website, you'll see we have some great advertisements, a portable toilet, magnets, a galaxy, a beautiful dress, whatever the heck this is. So yeah, that doesn't look like a scam at all. Going over to fear and greed, I think the chart is showing us one of two things here. One, we have been in this downtrend and that we have reversed. As you can see, we are making higher highs and higher lows. That is a good thing. Or two, maybe we are getting this temporary spike before rolling back down. Recently, when we spiked in greed, not that many days ago, we had the Ethereum ETF approval. Right here, this data point was the Bitcoin ETF approval. There was a 20% correction in Bitcoin price that came after. We already had a 20-ish% correction, so are we about to get another one from the current levels? We will see, but overall does look like, in my opinion, a reverse of the trend. But do watch, this could just be a macro lower high from these points right here if this ends up turning over. So we will see. The alt season index, something very interesting that I told you guys to watch for. Speaking of changes and trends, you can see that after we had the three peaks of alt season in late 2020 and during 2021, of course, this is the alt season that I remember. This is when Bitcoin dominance tanked. And when Bitcoin dominance tanks, that's when a lot of alts, if you are in the right ones, can go up 5, 10, 20x or more. So one thing that I've noted is that we have been in this downtrend that we've been reversing. And I looked at this just as I would a chart on TradingView, and you can't help but think that this is majorly bullish for alts because we have higher highs, higher lows, and this is starting to create almost a parabola type formation here. So maybe alt season is getting ready to blast off, and maybe we are going to get something like 2 or 3 peaks for alt season. So keep an eye on the alts. We are going to take a look at Bitcoin dominance because there's some things Bitcoin dominance is showing us right now that could be bullish for alts in the short to medium term. Going over to the rainbow chart, and we're going to keep coming back to this a lot. You can see right here we had our fourth halving, and I talked about this before the halving, how we go up one of these zones every single halving. So first halving, we're in the lowest zone. Second halving, the second lowest zone. Third halving, accumulate zone. Fourth halving, the still cheap zone. So by the fifth halving, we might be in the hodl zone over there, which would make Bitcoin an average price between 218 and 282. Guys, could you believe that? If Bitcoin was sitting at that level, if this trend continues, that's what we would be in 2028. So who knows? Maybe Bitcoin will keep trending that way. Every pattern, every trend line, things they'll hold true until they don't. So just something to keep an eye on, or at least consider that maybe if you do believe in this rainbow chart, that this is indicating if we do keep going up a zone each time, that by the time we get over here, Bitcoin will be above 200,000. We will see, but something to be aware of. And of course, after the halving as well, you can see how there is a new peak in price not too much later. So this halving was around November 2012, and the ultimate peak was about a year later, November 2013. This halving was around June, July 2016, And of course, this was December of 2017, so a year and a half later, so 1 year, a year and a half. This halving was May of 2020, and alt season and the peak here was 10 months away. And alt season happened right in here. Now, the very peak was here in November. So, if you want to go from that area right here, you'd say about a year and a half. So maybe if all things are going to play out again as they have before, we are looking at a year, year and a half, 10 months. You could say a year, year and a half, either way. Are we going to have the next peak about a year or a year and a half from where we are right now? And so the halving took place in April, and a year from now, you'd be taking a look at April in 2025. And if you were looking at, let's be conservative, the third area down, the orange zone, you'd be taking a look at Bitcoin price from 159K to 205K. And if we did something like a year and a half, let's say we go till November 25, then we could be looking at 189K to 242K. We will see if that holds true. There's some other indicators or other things that we've mapped out to show us that maybe a top is coming sooner. So let's go over to the charts. Right now we are taking a look at Bitcoin on the weekly, and this gray line is the former top from 2021. And one thing I want you guys to note here is that with the Heikin-Ashi candles, we really haven't closed that strongly above the line. Yes, we've wicked above it and peaked above it a little bit, but I am not sold on this being near the end of alt season and all that until we have a firm candle break above this former all-time high. And I'll show you why. Going back to the previous two cycles, the yellow line here is when the price breaks the all-time high. Okay, so we did that before the halving. That's the first time this year. We're going to come back to that later. But if you look here of when we get a strong candle body close, breaking above the former all-time high, that's this gray line right here. You can take a look that is when we are near the end. You can draw from either of these weekly candles here, but that's only about 4 months from the time it happened in 2021. And going back to 2017, and we're going to that yellow line when it broke above the prior all-time high. You can see in 2017 it's kind of doing what we are doing now, where the wicks here got above the all-time high, but we didn't have a candle body closing well above all the way until here, until April or early May. So you can take a look here from, we'll go with May because that's when the majority of the candle closed above, and it never looked back from that point to the eventual peak. That was about 224 days, so 7-8 months. So maybe we're looking somewhere between 4 to 8 months as far as a range, as far as where the next top might be. Now that's from when the next candle body closes, which right now we do have a weekly buy signal, and hopefully within one of these next couple of weeks we'll have a candle close above. And if we did, let's just say this next week, where would that put us if we were 120 days away? That'd be about 4 months. That put us, you can see the date at the bottom, that would put us at around September, October this year. All right, let's go to 220, 7 or 8 months. I believe it said 220 days, right? So 210, of course, would be about 7 months. Let's stick with this, 7 months. Where would that put us? That would put us at the end of this year. And why that might be important to note here, you might be asking yourself, what is this green line all about? Well, at least here on the Bitcoin chart, the green line is the average amount of time from the break of the former all-time high to the eventual next cycle peak. And so taking a look at this, when Bitcoin has broken its former all-time high, this yellow line, to the next peak. The red line, if you average all those out from every cycle, each of those cycles is about 300 days. Again, from the break of the all-time high to the next peak, you can see right there, 300 days. Okay, so if you were to measure out, break all-time high, the yellow line to the red line, yellow line to the red line, you can see right there that's the shortest amount of time. Now, if we were to go from the white line to the red line, you might be wondering, what's the white line? Well, the white line is each halving. And each halving to each all-time high, you can see, is on average a bit longer. If I take those averages, that's what puts us at this red line right here, which would be August of 25. So the way I've looked at this is, what if this is just a range? The green line is the average from the break of the previous all-time high, which we had before the halving, the white line. It's the break of the previous all-time high to the eventual peak, 300 days, end of this year. That also coincides with about the 7-month average that we just talked about, from when we get a candle body close above to the eventual peak. So that's two things that show maybe a top's coming sooner. However, we do have the average from the halving to the all-time high, which puts us out here in August. So the way I look at it is, I don't want to get caught up too much in predictions, because each cycle does things that are different. But the way I look at it is, my guess is maybe we will fall somewhere in here. And going over to the rainbow chart, heck, if we just take a look at December, early January, it's all pretty similar. We could take a look at that orange box, the third one down. What would that put the price of Bitcoin? 145 to 187K. And if we went out to August, that would put us at like 175 to 225. So I know it sucks to wait. And the longer we wait, I think that is better for Bitcoin. It's better for altcoins, because price not only will have longer to go up, but then that's more money, more market cap, just more capital to flow into the alts during alt season. If we do get an alt season, a big alt season. But also it gives us more time to accumulate and to raise our stakes as far as how much profit we can get. So those are some patterns that I've noticed with the price action before. Again, doesn't mean that it has to happen again, but it is interesting that it puts us possibly, there's a couple of things to show that it puts us possibly topping near the end of this year. We'll see. Every cycle does something different. Another thing I wanted to look at, and I'm not sure if there's really that strong of a correlation here or not. I'll let you guys be the deciders of it. By the way, what we are looking at right here is the S&P 500, and I drew these 4 green lines. The white line, by the way, this is when inflation peaked in 2022. So at the peak of inflation, that was right here. The red line is when the Fed cut rates first after holding higher for longer. So those are a couple important things to note, and I was just curious what the overall market did after. But these green lines here that you see are the peaks in Bitcoin. So last time we had that double peak in April and in November. And I was curious, what happens when Bitcoin peaks? And already what I noticed is, after the eventual peak in November, we had a big correction here that happened. This was after all the stimulus money came through, and we reached the higher end of this range in this channel that's been going on in the S&P since the great financial crisis. Here you can see the lows and the highs keep hitting the upper end of this channel. The lows, yes, COVID went through it. There were some closes in there on the lower end of that channel. So yes, I know it got through. Also, the trend line matched up back here. But either way, it got up to the upper part of this channel, fell off. And also, this is when Bitcoin peaked in 2021. It did peak here as well. But again, remember, we had that double top. We had that double top right here, that November top. And then I'm showing you, that was right here. Well, what about 2017? What happened then? Well, when Bitcoin peaked, it was right here. And what's interesting to me is the top wasn't too much later, kind of like in 2021 in November. And eventually there were some pretty brutal sell-offs. in 2013. I think this one's kind of the exception to the rule because you can already see here what happened in 2011. Okay, so going over to the rainbow chart, you can see here December 2013 and June of 2011, around that time. So June of 2011, you can see the S&P 500 went down quite a bit. These aren't small corrections either, just from the top to the eventual bottom. 20%, that's a pretty good size correction. Now, from this point, 2013, that was a different time. From that peak, the S&P still went up a good 19-20%. So I think 2013 was the most, is definitely the outlier from the other data points, but the other data points seem to suggest that when crypto peaks, when Bitcoin peaks, I mean, sure, it went up around 7%, but it also fell 12%. So I'll take the bigger number in that situation. And in here, yes, alt season was in here, but from the peak again, when the whole correction played out, that was a 25% correction. So the reason I bring this up, this is just a thought I play with, and you guys are welcome to disagree with this, but I do wonder if large money, the whales, as people talk about, who have all this money to throw into crypto, I wonder if they have their money initially in stocks, and then as stocks become very overvalued, they put it into crypto, and that's why it happens so suddenly, so quickly. And after profiting from the world of crypto, they then pull their profits, and then the overall market rolls over a little bit. That's been a thought in my mind. I'm not saying it's true, but it is something curious how these tops are pretty close to when there's some pretty sizable corrections. So just something I wanted to show you guys today. Lastly, we're going to take a look at the Bitcoin dominance chart right now, because you saw the alt season chart spiking here. So when I saw this making a new high, a new higher high, I wondered, what's Bitcoin dominance doing? Surely it must be going down. And sure enough, it has gone down to the 20, that's the red line, the 20 moving average on the weekly. The blue is 10, the red is 20, gold is 50, dark blue 200, light blue 100. Weekly moving averages. So this red dot, this is an indicator that shows us it has a sell signal. And if we were to take a look at this dominance chart, the same way we would look like it, that we would look at a chart like for Apple or Ethereum, Bitcoin, whatever, as long as we're coming back down to the 20 or even the 50, we are overall in a bullish trend. Now, we do have a sell signal, so maybe is dominance getting ready to come down to this area around the 50 and the 200? You can see it came down there before, and there was a decent size uptick in alts around this time. We can go over to Chainlink real quick. You can see this is early January, late December. Let's go over to Chainlink. This is just one of many alts. And take a look, when did Chainlink really start going up? So here we have October that's shooting up, November, December, January. So it kind of was going sideways in that time. Maybe it's not the best example, but maybe this was front running what was happening in the Bitcoin dominance chart right here. So when dominance falls, that's when alts overall are supposed to go up. If money is rotating from Bitcoin dominance into altcoins, if dominance is going down and Bitcoin price is going down, usually altcoin price is going down too. However, when dominance does tank, as it did back here, this again, that was around April of 21 into early May. And back here, this was mid-December to early January. That is when we have alt season. Okay, but anytime dominance goes down, or alt season's going up, I do look to see if there's a correlation there. So the link example wasn't the best correlation example. My apologies. But we do see here dominance is going down. Now, what's Bitcoin price doing? Is it going up, down? I would say it's going sideways right now. And as long as Bitcoin price is still overall going sideways, I think we're fine. And as far as dominance, if it's going down really hard while Bitcoin price is going sideways, I still think some of this money, now this is 53.92% of all money in crypto is in Bitcoin. Some of that money can be flowing into alts. But a couple areas to watch for to see if we get a bounce. I put this on the daily chart. I'm looking for dominance to maybe come down a little bit more to this 200-day moving average and then the bounce back up again. We'll see. As you can see here in dominance, we made this lower high just like we did back here. And maybe it's going to test this range over here around 53.5%, kind of like it tested the 200-day moving average back here. Now, if it gets under the 200-day, you have to go to the weekly. And on the weekly, then that's where we're probably looking at the 50-week moving average. And remember, in stocks, 50-week, that tells us whether we're staying bullish or bearish. And if it gets underneath, then we are turning bearish on the dominance, which doesn't have to be bad for altcoins. That means that maybe dominance is going to crash and some alts are going to have a mini alt season here. Maybe. Or if it did get underneath this 20 and bounced, overall they would say we are still in a bullish trend. Stocks do this. Crypto, it's no different. We could take a look at it. Let's take a look on watch the gold line, the 50. You can see here, came down to the 50, went up, still a bullish trend, made a new high. But when it goes under the 50, it tested it. That's when we get into a bearish trend. Again, above the 50, it was there until, COVID. This was a COVID crash, but then above the 50, never really needed to come back down to it. It was so bullish. This is 2017. Overall staying on the 10 and 20s, sometimes hit the 50. But eventually when it started bouncing and get under, we already knew we were bearish by then. Altcoins here were nowhere near as nice as here. So the bad sell-off already happened earlier on. So just keep an eye out for Bitcoin dominance. And as far as the distance between these two dominance dips that we had here, let's take a look at that right now. About 174 bars or 1,218 days. Again, if we had another 4-year cycle, we'll just count it like 1220. Watch the bottom. Where would that put us? September of 2024. That's something else to suggest that at least by alt season, that we would have an earlier top in here. Now, is it going to happen? I don't know. I truly don't know. My thought process is to have a plan, and I do have a plan. And when the price conditions meet that of my plan, then I'll know whether it's a good time to take profits or not. So we can wish for certain predictions to come true. Every YouTuber's got a bunch of different predictions, and I'm trying to present multiple scenarios to let you guys decide for yourself. But I think what's even more important than that is you have a plan so that you can react to the conditions of the market when they meet the conditions of your plan. I know that's a mouthful that I said right there. But again, if you have a plan, you don't care when Bitcoin dominance and alt season, when Bitcoin dominance tanks and alt season starts. You don't care when that happens, whether it's in September of this year or August of next year. It doesn't matter to you either way. If you have a plan, you might just accumulate a good value in your altcoins until that happens. And then once Bitcoin dominance tanks, and if Bitcoin, let's say this is another condition in your plan, is up here in the orange or red of the rainbow chart, then you know, hey, maybe it's time to take profits. There is an indicator that I'm wondering if it'll get triggered again. Let's take off one of these. I'm only using the free version. I'm not paid for this yet. I don't know if I ever will be, and that's fine. But if you use this indicator, Pi Cycle, Bitcoin, high, low, I want you guys to watch something here. Let me hide this. This has been pretty good about saying when the highs and lows were. Sorry for all the fibs. I know it's a mess. But overall, this indicator is able to say pretty close to when the highs and the lows were. Now, it said a high here and a low never came. We had another high. Are we going to get something like that? And then this low down here, guys, I truly believe this was the low, but we had a black swan event, the FTX, Sam Bankman Fried bankruptcy. It is a black swan event at the bottom, and I think that's why we went another 9-10% down. That's why I have this on the fib. I have an extra. If you were to draw the bottom of the fib to here, it caught that extra movement almost perfectly. So watch for this Bitcoin or Pi cycle high. And right now, where is that Pi cycle? It's at 87. Now it's not going to trigger just by touching it. As you can see, it has to go well above it. But if this signal was to be triggered on this indicator, if it was to be triggered, that could be another indicator. Say, hey, take some profits. We're probably at the top here. Okay, so this is my buy sell signal I use, by the way. Anyways, I hope you guys are enjoying this videos. Of the rainbow charts. Let's take a look at September, by the way. Where would Bitcoin be in September if it were to happen? If alt season were to happen this September, 133 to 172K. I could see it. That seems like a very conservative estimate. I see all these videos calling for 500K, a million. Again, guys, when you're looking at buying altcoins and taking profit or Bitcoin, Ethereum, do consider market cap. And the market cap can't be so ridiculous that it's just unworldly. Let's refresh this. If you go to CoinMarketCap, right now the market cap of Bitcoin is 1.35 trillion. So if it were to double and be near the value of Nvidia stock, just below Apple and Microsoft, if this market cap were to double, somewhere around 2.7 trillion, then you just double this, 69 times 2, that'd be around 138K. So if it got a little bit above 3 trillion, 3 to 4 trillion, I could see that being possible. And by the way, let's just say 4 trillion is our number. I'm just going to do this on my phone right here. I'll do 4,000 divided by 1346. So I hope you see what I'm doing. 4,000, that's instead of 4 trillion, I'm doing just 4,000. I'm just going through these first four decimals. Divided by 1.346, that would be around 3 times higher. And 3 times higher from 69, that would put us at 205K. So to me, 4 trillion would be the upper end of the most realistic bullish expectations for Bitcoin. Ethereum, if I had to guess, again, a 3 or 4x from here, somewhere 1.2 to 1.6 trillion, 2 at the best, but even that I'm not so sure. Solana, one of the best ones, if I had to guess, 300, 400 billion at best. And then as you can see, we have quite a bit of a fall off here. Solana around 80 billion to XRP 30 billion. Could XRP be worth for a moment 300 billion and do a 10x from here? I don't see anything more than a 10x, even at the best possible thing. And I'm not super bullish on XRP, but that would mean XRP not really being above $5. And $5, I think, is pushing it. Doge, again, guys, consider market cap. Doge, its high was around 100 billion. That's around a 4x from here. 4x, a little bit above a little bit under a 5x. And, so if it got back to 70 cents, okay, there's a target. If it got to $1.40, you're talking about Doge being worth 200 billion at its highest. So when you guys are buying altcoins, make sure you calculate market cap. A lot of YouTubers put out ridiculous claims, And I believe they do that because they want the viewers to keep injecting money to be exit liquidity for them to take profits while you're still hoping for higher prices that are never going to come. So do be careful. Make a plan. Write down if you are buying Dogecoin, for example, that you are setting your price targets, drawing fibs. I do charting and I can show you on my channel, I do show you where I look for price targets and why that is. And of course, nothing here is financial advice, but you do have to be smart with with crypto just because it is such a volatile environment and it goes up so high and then very low. And so be ready to possibly, again, not financial advice, take profits. So if you've been dollar cost averaging in, buying down here, that you can sell in one of these higher points and not be left holding a bag for 6 years, possibly. You know, if you didn't sell here, you'd have to wait such a long time to be able to sell again. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you're all doing well. Thank you for watching. Take care.